You know what, Bill de Blasio? Unless we hear from you, come on the show, you coward, and let us know. Are we right? Are you a
Right.
serial groundhog killer?
How many groundhogs are there? We
How
know
many are there
we know
under
the one.
your bed? Well, that probably would. Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots. I'm one of your hosts, Katie Halper,
And I'm Matt Taibbi.
also a host.
Right, the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot that we're going to be doing this week. We have a great show. We have Dr. Cornel West, who's amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Great guy.
And
Great guest. Great person. Return.
He was one of our better interviews, I think, in the last year or so. And so it's going to be a really interesting conversation. He's been in the middle of a lot of interesting stuff lately, so we're going to ask him all. And we got to get a lot of news to get to. Should we just get to it?
Yeah, let's just get to it. Yeah.
All right. So four food groups: Democrats suck, Republicans suck. Isn't that weird? Isn't that terrible? So Democrats suck. I was really torn between a couple of things. On the one hand, the news that the Biden administration is hoping to allocate $80 billion more to the IRS in order to significantly jack up the number of audits. Deeply annoying for a number of reasons. The IRS's budget is, I think, only about $12 billion a year. So what they're really trying to do is compensate for the fact that they don't collect tax at all on companies like Bank of America or Facebook or Google, not to any significant degree. They're going to make up for that by adding staff to do audits on people, basically, which is annoying, but we have to see how that plays out. I don't know. That felt, they haven't done it yet, so I think we have to wait till that moment. On the other hand, this other thing I think is kind of more down up our alley. They're replicating the Bernie Bro with the Yang Gang. It's become a significant feature of coverage of Yang. And for those who aren't familiar, we've talked about this many times in the show, but they're with the Sanders campaign at various junctures, a lot of sort of Democratic strategists and people who are involved in messaging for the various campaigns, they played up this idea that the Sanders followers were threatening, violent, aggressive, racist, whatever.
Misogynist,
Misogynist, and this became an issue that Bernie had to respond to in the campaign constantly, right? And meanwhile, in a corresponding lack of attention, there were almost exactly similar. I would even say worse situations with other candidates because they were paid trolls.
Right. We were all the Bernie people. I know. Trust me. We were doing it out of the love of our goodness of our hearts. Yeah. All the kindness of our hearts. Yeah.
All that racist and xenophobic abuse that you were piling on people, you did that for free. Right?
Yeah.
But there were paid trolls for other candidates. And
the K-Hive, which we spoke about.
So now they're doing this again with Yang, and it's coming from a couple of places. It's coming from some of his other opponents, Democratic opponents.
For mayor.
But then and then it's all for mayor of New York City. But then it's also, there are just lots and lots of stories that are being pitched to major news outlets about this. And I just want to look at a couple of them because they're just so annoying. The New York Times, Andrew Yang looking for endorsement offends gay Democratic club.
Right.
Participants described Mr. Yang's remarks as offensive, saying that even as members of the club wanted to discuss policy issues, he mentioned gay bars. And then if we can just go down and read a little bit of the piece. Andrew Yang, the former presidential candidate and leading contender for mayor of New York City, met with a prominent LGBT Democratic political organization on Wednesday to seek its endorsement. It did not go particularly well. In an interview with the Stonewall Democratic Club of New York City, Mr. Yang cited gay members of his staff as apparent evidence of his openness to the club's concerns and expressed enthusiasm about the prospect of visiting the Cubby Hole, a storied New York lesbian bar, participants said. He proactively talked about resurrecting the city's Pride March, but failed to pay sufficient heed to more substantive issues they were actually concerned about, including homelessness and affordable housing. According to limited public polling as well as private polling, Mr. Yang has surged to the front of the mayoral pack, fueled by his name recognition and celebrity status, as well as his cheery demeanor and optimistic discussion of the city's future. But in the past, he has struggled with issues of tone. His presidential campaign has been trailed by allegations of a bro culture. In one of his own books, he admits to having named his pectoral muscles Lex and Rex. Then there's another thing about how a woman now running for Manhattan Borough President has claimed that Mr. Yang has discriminated her on the basis of gender, allegations that he has consistently denied. So hard to know what to make of that.
It's kind of weird they don't name the woman. It's like she's anonymous or something. But I assume that, I don't know, do they link to who it actually is?
Yes, I forget what her name is. You can open the link and see it.
It's weird, right? Isn't that kind of weird?
Well, I understand why you do that. For a press organization, anytime you can avoid naming somebody in any situation where somebody might be upset about something legally, you just don't use the name.
Okay, weird. But they do link to it, and I still can't see who wrote it. Kimberly Watkins. All right. I was Andrew Yang's first Freedom Dividend recipient when he fired me. Okay. The club, I'm just going to read a little bit more. The club is arguably the leading LGBT club in New York City. According to Christine Quinn, New York City's first openly gay city council speaker, its members, she said, are politically sophisticated. Yet Mr. Yang's appearance struck those members as pandering and tone deaf, according to interviews. A video and a copy of the comments unfolded during the virtual meeting. Well, I just got to say, Christine Quinn is one to talk because she slammed Cynthia Nixon as a redhead lesbian, as if she had the monopoly on that. She also used to be really cool, Christine Quinn. She was like with ACT UP, the kind of radical gay rights AIDS awareness group. Larry Kramer was part of, and then she totally sold out. It's totally boring, and defended Bloomberg during a press conference. Actually, a press conference. Yeah, she refused to speak because someone called Bloomberg Pharaoh.
Oh my God! So it's a little bit hypocritical, then, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Also, she should applaud that because I just realized it's anti-Semitic because you're calling a Jewish guy Pharaoh. They weren't Jews. So shout out to the people who said that. Yeah. Shout out to the Bloomberg critics.
There's too many of those folks.
Yeah.
Bloomberg needs to be insulated from criticism. He doesn't have a platform that he can use to defend
himself. Yeah.
Then there's a Daily News story that just came out. New York City mayoral candidate Yang and his loyal gang under fire for attacking foes online. And then it says, of all the mayoral candidates, Andrew Yang is the only one with a legitimate claim to having his own gang. And while that has advantages, it has also cast Yang in a harsh light at times. I hate this way of doing a news story, because what you're essentially saying is it's a story that someone has said something about somebody, right? You're making it like he's guilty of something because somebody said something. Using that kind of passive voice it has cast, it sort of like removes the idea that you're actually part of this by calling attention to it anyway.
It has cast.
It's like raised allegations, or highlights concerns, like that kinds of thing. It's a totally fictional way of just sort of creating a news story out of nothing. And it all fits. Then all you do is it just fits into that narrative. Like once you establish it, every story and isolated event is then plugged into this trend and larger narrative. Which you created, or which somebody like you created, right?
Not me, not like me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Although the Yang Gang, we did get him on the show. In fact, Yang Gang, where are you? We pressured you. Well, I did. I tweeted at the Yang Gang, and I said if Andrew Yang didn't come on the show, they were a bunch of powerless somethings.
Did you use a slur?
I didn't use a slur, although I should have, because apparently that's what they respond to. But we put the pressure on. I think I threatened to do something with circumcision because he's a big anti-circumcision guy.
Right. Yeah. You threatened to take the rest.
He's what?
You threatened to take the rest, I said.
Oh, take the rest. Yeah. One step. Yeah, that's just a preview.
Step at a time.
Yeah. But they did come through, but they haven't come through this time. Have you made any
I pinged him a couple of weeks ago, and he seemed into it, but nothing has materialized. So we're trying again.
We're trying. We're giving you 2 weeks, Andrew.
Yeah,
Yang
exactly.
Gang.
And then we're gonna commence with we're
gonna go Yang Gang on
homophobic, xenophobic, everything racist.
We're gonna rename his pecs.
Right. Yeah. Not Lex and Rex.
Lex and Rex. It'll be more like Luther.
Droopy and
Droopy and
hairy and droopy.
Hairy and droopy. Yeah, that's really good.
Saggy and furry.
Yeah. But furry's kind of cute. Although no, furry
not
pecs.
On a guy's pecs.
No, not on on a gorilla's pecs maybe.
Yeah.
It is like, again, let's have would love to have a story, and this is why our interview with Matt Orfola is so important, but would love to have a story where anyone talks about the Kamala people threatening people saying we're going to go through some things. They said about you. They said about me. They said about Marianne Williamson. And I just want people to know they did not. Well, whatever. We'll talk about later when we talk about why we separated from Rolling Stone, which we've neglected that story, and people still need to know the truth.
They're hungering for it.
They're hungering for it. Yeah, we'll get to that later on. We'll get to that in the paid Substack only part. But Wilson, can we just play this short video because we're talking about gaffes again? Like the fact that Kamala Harris's moments when she's making fun of parents, making fun of like social justice, talking about locking up parents and laughing at it. No criticism, right? And likewise, no criticism of Biden over this. Like, I can't believe this wasn't a story. Speaking about LGBTQ pandering and gaffes. This is from October 2019 at LGBTQ town hall.
We talked about this in San Francisco. It's all about, gay bathhouses and everybody. It's all about round the clock sex. It's all, come on, man.
An amazing moment. Yeah.
I love how he crowds Anderson with that. It's
I know.
So funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I miss things like that.
That's a whole pile of cringe right there.
Yeah. Pile of cringe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Biden's difficult because he routinely goes way over the line in terms of stuff like that. Like there's no id really there at all anymore with him. He doesn't clamp down on any of that stuff.
Right.
But what they're trying to do with Yang, and to a lesser extent with Bernie, it was the same thing. They're basically saying, oh, because he nurtures a certain kind of atmosphere around his campaign, he's responsible for every lunatic who says anything. That's an impossible standard for any candidate to meet. And it's also, if you're going to do this selectively, you can do it to anybody.
Yeah, you can't do. That's the thing. That's why it's so taken out of context. I mean, that's the thing. If you make it selective, it's just totally dishonest. It's like people, like breaking news, people on internet are assholes.
Yeah, they suck, right?
Yeah.
Like
the real story,
newsflash. Honestly,
that is there is that's become the story and a narrative, while only when it fits, only when it's politically convenient. I mean, that's the only story that should be written about it.
Yeah.
As you know, sometimes I talk about that with Neera Tanden. It's been too long.
Right. Yeah. We haven't had a Neera Tanden
I know
commentary on this show for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the last thing about this that's I think is worth pointing out is that historically the New York mayor has always had kind of a sense of humor. Like that's a job that is where there's always been this kind of off-color relationship between the mayor and reporters and the press and people like Ed Koch. They were pretty funny, like it's part of the character of that job. And to have a situation where a politician is now going to have to think about not only everything that he says, but everything that his followers, or his or her followers are going to say,
and alleged followers too.
That's and alleged followers, like it just takes an angle out of politics that's going to dehumanize it even more and make the whole process even more phony than it is, I think.
Yeah. Although I don't know, was Dinkins funny?
He was not funny.
He wasn't. He was sweet.
He was sweet.
Nice
he liked
eyes.
tennis. Those were like
he liked tennis. Yeah.
Like he didn't have a whole lot going on other than that.
Yeah.
Rudy wasn't that funny either. I have to say.
Not intentionally funny.
Not intentionally funny.
And De Blasio isn't either. He tries to be.
He tries to be. He's a ham.
He's a ham, but he's like a failed ham. That's
ham.
What's so sad about it.
He killed a groundhog.
I'll never forgive him for that.
Yeah.
That is like, why didn't that?
That should be a disqualifying.
That offense. Should be. He should have been able to run for president. But I'll never forget. I think I mentioned it on the last show. I really do commend him for using a Che Guevara quote at a debate in Miami.
Did he do that?
Yeah, I think he had no idea. Yeah.
In Miami, especially, that's really funny.
Yeah.
way to be politically astute there.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, no, he should have had to carry that dead groundhog on with him.
Yeah, you're right.
Throughout the presidential run.
Yeah, he really should have, or at least dedicated a plaque to him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or tattooed it on his neck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
An R.I.P.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Or he should have poured out a little malt liquor for his dead groundhog at every episode, every speech.
Episode? Right. No, he should have made a show.
Right. Yeah, I killed a groundhog.
Like, well, yeah, just groundhog awareness, basically.
Right.
You know, he really should have paid like educational reparations. Like he should have used his power to spotlight the plight of groundhogs.
Right.
Although he probably, I don't know if they suffer on a systemic level from mayoral dropping. Probably not. But God, that's so inexcusable.
Well, we only know about the one.
Yeah, it's true. They're usually covered up, probably.
Right? He could have been going to every zoo in the tri-state area and just
a trail of groundhogs.
Yeah, just the footprints just lead back to Gracie Mansion.
The paw prints.
Yeah, right.
You know what, Bill de Blasio? Unless we hear from you, come on the show, you coward, and let us know. Are we right? Are you a serial groundhog killer?
How many groundhogs are there?
How many are there under your bed? Well, that probably would. Come on, we need a reporter to pick this up and ask him. Some have said there are groundhog corpses under your bed.
Right. Concerns have been raised.
Yeah. Oh, poor groundhogs.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll get to that. We'll figure that out. Okay, what do we have for Republican Suck?
So for Republican Suck, we have a story about Mike Pence, who, by the way, is writing a book, which I'm very excited about. But this is.
I bet it's gonna be a real cracker.
Yeah,
this book.
It will be. I bet it'll be really funny unintentionally. But there's a report. So reading at Huffington Post, it turns out that Mike Pence's COVID rule-busting Vail vacation cost public $757,000 in security costs alone. Pence hit the slopes as his own task force urged strict precautions amid historic highs in coronavirus cases, and the CDC told people to stay home. This was last year that he went to Vail for skiing, but according to a report from that very good organization, watchdog organization, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Crew, yeah. We now know he showed up with at least 48 agents, and they stayed at different hotels in the area, rented 77 cars. Charges included more than $270,000 at the Marriott Vail Mountain and more than $80,000 at the Ritz-Carlton, Crew reported.
Is it like little mini whiskey bottles or?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or is he watching porn at night? What's going on?
I don't know. Christian porn.
That's a great genre, by the way.
Yeah, I imagine it would. Yeah. So it's the fact that there was COVID, that they didn't take precautions. And of course, we know that hundreds of Secret Service officers were either infected with COVID or had to quarantine after potential exposure last year as Donald Trump continued to travel and hold campaign events during the pandemic. I still can't believe, by the way, that he got COVID and then he took a tour in his presidential car with Secret Service agents to hail supporters outside Walter Reed Hospital. I don't know why. Yeah, 757,000. Yeah, again, I mean, I would love to know what they spent it on.
I should say that I'm in general not a fan of these stories because it's a cliche. Everybody does this, right? So every politician gets in office, and then what inevitably happens is that somebody looks up the filings for how much so and so spent on whatever. It could be anything. It could be like how much they spent on a dress for the inauguration. It could be like it's impossible. It's almost impossible for politicians to come out not looking bad after these. And I think I remember Obama. The number was something like $96 million that he spent for vacations over 8 years, which sounded like a big number, but I don't think it really was when you took everything into consideration. However, the Trump era seems like they broke the mold in terms of spending on this. Like the amount of money that they spent on vacations Trump did just flew by all the previous numbers. It's tough, right? Like politicians do have to take vacations, and it's always going to cost a lot because they have all this staff that's following them around that probably has something to do with them, something not. But
I think in this case, it really is like, God, how many cards did they need though? I'm looking at the report. A lot of, like, I think that in this case, it's also because of the COVID stuff that makes it like particularly problematic.
What I always want to know about that though is how much of that is protocol and how much of that is the politician asking for X, Y, and Z, right? So like if Barack Obama goes to Camp David, does he automatically have to bring 100
Oh,
people with
I see
him?
what you're saying. Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I don't, that's the unknown
But
for
how
me.
many? Wait, can you, Matt? You're a hardened, seasoned. Why do those things both sound ageist? But reporter. If you could just cast your hardened, seasoned reporter eyes over it, what the hell? I don't understand. It's like, it's so many cars, and then it is like you can't even get into them. There's so many into the numbers, but then lodging, like, why is it so expensive? Domestic and Denver Field, 33,000. Doubletree Vale. Doubletree, is that expensive? I guess they had like, it's like a clown car of a hotel, I guess.
Right.
It's like a lot. I don't know.
Well, but the question though is always, how much different is that from what's gone on in the past, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
you know what? Maybe it's not too bad. I wish, you know what? This is Republicans suck because he didn't spend more money.
right, he should have spent more.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
It's tough. I know like Judicial Watch made a huge stink about Obama's vacations,
Right.
and it was one of those, it was like a very viral issue for right wingers through the entire 8-year reign. But then Trump spent an ungodly amount of money on his vacations too. $1 million for it's basically $1 million for Pence for this one trip, right?
Yeah.
I definitely don't think he needs. How many agents did he have with him?
77.
Maybe he was worried about falling while he's skiing.
Yeah. Oh, you know what it was? He can't meet alone with his wife. Wait, no, what is it? He can't meet with women unless his wife is present.
So he needs them to run interference for him.
I don't know. Actually, that doesn't really make sense, right? Let's see. I think he has one. Okay, basically, he had one female Secret Service person. And because of that, he needed a lot of men.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? No, that doesn't make sense, actually.
Yeah, why not just not have a female Secret Service person?
Yeah, so that's, if you're listening, Pence.
I think the onus is now, the simple onus on us is to is to do a deep dive, so to speak, into how relatively bad or not this is.
Yes. Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Compared to previous vice presidents.
Yeah. So, Useful Idiots fans, make yourself even more useful and tell us what you think. A gut check.
That seems like
fun.
way too many agents for Mike Pence to go skiing.
That's my hot take. Too many agents.
How much attention did Mike Pence really get from threats? I would imagine there would have been like a line of people to go after Trump, but
yeah.
Pence,
Well, didn't they do that at January 6th?
They went after Pence, you mean?
Yeah, they were mad at him. They wanted to.
That was because of the whole. Yeah, he wouldn't go for the whole stop the steal thing.
Because he was a coward.
Yeah, he's a hidden Dem.
Yeah.
They were trying to peel the facade off. He was actually Nancy Pelosi underneath.
Yeah, yeah, he was. Yeah, that's why they couldn't find her.
Because she was hiding in her Pence suit.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to say, have we ever seen them in the same place at the same time? Yes, during every State of the Union, but it could be trick photography. You can edit that in really easily. Yes.
Is Mike Pence Nancy Pelosi?
Well, I think Mike Pence. Okay. The truth is, I mean, we're being ridiculous and over the top, but what really is the reality is well, hold on. Mike Pence is Nancy Pelosi in a Mike Pence suit. But what people don't know, and this is the part it's going to be hard for people to believe, but it's true and documented by many, including us on this show, is that that who we thought was Nancy Pelosi was actually someone in a Nancy Pelosi suit, and that someone was, Matt, I'll let you deliver the news.
Fidel Castro. That would be a pretty funny trick, Castro, to pull it.
I mean, isn't it interesting that he died, apparently, allegedly. Right. The guy lived, why then? I mean, he was living for so long. It doesn't make sense that he died at all.
Right. This was just his latest role. He, it was all those years he spent in Juilliard training. Yeah. Training for the role of a lifetime, which was his fake death, and then reincarnation as Nancy Pelosi.
I'm actually I stand by what I'm saying. The guy survived how many attempts at his life? I just don't buy it. It's just too coincidental.
You don't buy that he died?
Yeah. I think he's in a Pelosi suit.
There's also the possibility, I never bought that Andy Kaufman really died. So maybe Andy Kaufman was Castro, and Castro was Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. And Mike Pence, obviously.
And Mike Pence.
Yeah, was.
It's like a Matryoshka doll. Mike Pence is actually Nancy Pelosi is Fidel Castro, is Andy
Is
Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman, yeah.
And then who's in the middle? Putin? There's
Lee
usually
Camp.
a fifth doll.
Lee Camp.
Lee Camp.
That's a reference to we were accused of being Russian agents, and it was the order somehow was like me, Matt, Aaron Mate, Putin, Lee Camp. Like Lee Camp was actually above Putin.
He was above Putin.
Yeah.
All right, what's next? Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
This is I guess it's more of a, isn't that terrible? But we cross these lines all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, this is a human interest story that was all over the
I didn't
internet.
even see it.
You didn't see this?
Mm-mm. Maybe I blocked it out.
Here's the headline. Here's from People Magazine, Matt, if you can open it up. 29-year-old woman dies after a man jumps from building and lands on her 1 week before her birthday. 29-year-old San Diego woman was killed in a freak accident after a man who fell from a 9-story parking deck landed on top of her, authorities said. Taylor Cale was walking with a friend on 10th Avenue and J Street on Sunday night when the man fell from the structure and onto her as she walked onto the sidewalk below.
Oh my God.
The San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office said in a press release. The man, who has not been identified but is thought to have been in his 20s or 30s, has been seen, quote, hanging from the outside railing of the deck before the accident. He died at a local hospital less than an hour later, and his death was ruled a suicide, officials said. Cale was pronounced dead at the scene, according to the medical examiner's office. And then
what
talks
an
about
asshole.
how she was in. Yeah, exactly, right? So then, like, in order to sell the horribleness of the story, the People writer, and then they did this, like, all the stories about this, they just went into how unlucky. Anyway, we'll just read. McFarlane told CBS CW affiliate KFMB that Cale had spent the day on a second date with a man she'd met online, and that they'd been to the zoo and had dinner together. Quote, "I just want people to know that she's an incredible person," McFarlane said. "The tragedy does not define her." Cale was the proud owner of 2 rescue dogs, Rue and Stella, and was exceptionally close to her father, with whom she'd spent the last year due to COVID, according to the Facebook post. So, like, it's bad enough that man who trying to kill himself jumps off building and hits somebody else and kills that person. But additionally, it was a week before her birthday, and she had 2 rescue dogs.
And was going on a date with someone.
And was going on a date that was working out.
That is like, no, this is really sad, actually. She always referred to me as her.
They include in the article that the date went really well to make
Did
it
they
worse.
say that?
Kind of, yeah. No, they says, yeah, she had been on a second date with a man she'd met online. So what they're telling you is that it was going well enough that there was a second date. So,
Well, at least he doesn't have to worry if he was waiting for her in a bar and he felt dissed. Now
it's
he
not
knows
that she stood him
it's
up.
not her.
It's because a person committing suicide had landed on her.
Yeah.
Likely story, right?
Terrible.
You get the text afterwards.
That's going to give you a lot
Just
of.
tell me you don't like me. You don't have to give me a story.
Yeah, you don't have to like. I can't believe this is. I guess it is weird. Isn't that weird? What are the odds of a guy jumping off of a building, landing on someone else? That is a murder. That is a suicide homicide.
Yeah, no, I think there's a long literature of people killing themselves who kill other people in the process, like people who, or they do things like they jump in front of a train.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They basically ruin the life of the person
Right.
who was driving the train.
Oh yeah, that's awful.
forever.
Or on a bus, if people on a bus, you get a lot of people see it.
Right. What's the proper way to go? What's the least hurtful way to do it?
I don't know, but something that involves. I mean, honestly, you have to be. I think you have to. All your family has to be dead. That's
Right.
the kind way to do it.
Right.
Be a hermit.
Be a hermit.
Which reminds me of my
Which
necrophilia
is your right.
moral.
That way it's okay for
compass.
someone to have sex with you after you're dead.
Yeah, that too. Be a hermit. Donate your body to necrophilia. Necrophile.
Okay.
Necrophiliac.
So that means you should
What's the
leave your
word?
body. You should leave your body in condition to be interfered with.
You have to leave it.
afterwards.
Well, yeah, you have to also leave a note. Send a text or email so people know before that they only have a couple hours. I don't know how long they have, honestly.
Right.
I should know from cop shows how long I mean, I don't know what people stand. That's ridiculous. To each his own.
Yeah, if anybody out there knows the answer
Yeah.
to that question, how long, does it still, is a body still viable?
Yeah.
After? But that also rules out other kinds of, like, you wouldn't want to blow yourself up with a grenade.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah. So
Because
look,
you got to leave.
To all the suicidal hermits watching this out there, please be responsible. What about donating your organs? Do people commit suicide ever do that? They really should. Because that is like, not that it would make it okay for you to land on people and kill them, but the other end of the extreme of suicide, on one end you got murder. How about you do a life-saving instead?
Yeah, I mean, you could go and have them removed.
Right before?
Yeah.
I'm planning on committing suicide later today. Could you, this is going to have a trigger warning, I feel like.
No.
Or you just, no, what you should do is you jump into a bath of ice somehow.
Right. Yeah, just walk around with a an igloo cooler.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, a bunch of ice. Maybe have a friend with a pen knife.
Put the ice. Oh, yeah, that's true. Put a bath. You got it. Here's what you got to do. If you're going to jump, first of all, you got to clear the way. So you got it. How can you distract people?
Put your glasses on. Make sure you can see. Right.
Yeah. Wait, why do they have to make sure so they jump? Right. Yeah.
You
don't jump on anyone. And instead, what you want to do is right before you get a friend to help you move a bathtub onto the sidewalk filled with ice.
So you want to jump into the bathtub full of ice?
Yeah.
So okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Too. There's probably some drugs you can take as well that would help preserve the organs.
Oh, never thought of that.
Look that up if you're going to do that.
But seriously, it's the only way you can justify it.
Anyway, whatever you're doing, don't jump off a building on top of somebody who's just had a second date and is a week away from her birthday.
That's so terrible. That should have been your terrible.
Major asshole.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. That makes you a major asshole. Yeah. You're a murderer. Whenever I hear about stuff like this, I want to kill the person, but it's too late. They're already killed. Yeah.
They're already dead. Yeah. So there's nothing that you're depriving us of justice too.
Yeah. No vengeance.
Right.
Vengeance is nobody's.
I will not repay.
Yeah.
Well, let's saith the Lord. All right. Well, that happened. That was, I guess, weird. So I'm hoping you have more of a weird.
I mean, yeah, I will have a weird one because that really was a terrible one, right? Let's flip it up. So people think we have a moral compass.
In all seriousness, just a quick media crit thing.
Yeah.
What they do with those stories, and they're horrible, and we're not making fun of that woman's death in any way.
Yeah, ignore what we just said. Yeah.
From a media standpoint, the reason that they play up those what they're doing is they find the horrible story and then they actually go actively hunting for the details that make them more depressing to people so that they can jack it up toward the headline. Just full disclosure.
Yeah, they'll never be like the person was really annoying. Had a habit of sticking to her friends with the checks after meals. What else could they put in there?
Right, that didn't
ever stand up for old people on the train.
Voted for Nader.
Well, we like that, but
but
most readers don't. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting genre. Like, person who was tragically killed was actually not all that great.
Yeah. Kind of an asshole anyway. Yeah, if it had to happen to someone, which we didn't want it to, but
it was a nitpicker who always talked during movies.
Kind of sounds like me, actually. But
do you talk during movies?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, no, yes and no. Depends. You mean in public movie theaters?
Yeah.
No, not really. My grandmother did, though. And you ever go to the $3 movie theater? Do you remember that? The $3 movie theater? It was $2 in New York City. Anyway, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of interaction there. Yeah. I try not to talk, but every now and then. Gotcha. So I'm going to do a weird, which is a story at NPR. So this is a weird, heartwarming story. Prancer, the haunted Victorian child dog from viral ad, has been adopted. Good news, Prancer has been adopted. The 2-year-old, 13-pound Chihuahua mutt, not so charitably described as a Chucky doll in a dog's body, was listed for adoption this month in an unusually honest ad that charmed hundreds of thousands of people on social media. Now, Prancer, the haunted Victorian child in the body of a small dog that hates men and children, has found a home with Ariel Davis, a 36-year-old resident of New Haven, Connecticut. She brought Prancer home last week. According to his newly created Instagram account.
He's got an Instagram account?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read the article, I connected to it, and I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll just send them an email.
Because she hates men and children.
Well, I guess so.
Right?
Yeah.
I like this story so far. Go ahead.
Yeah. So while rescue dog ads can be notorious for euphemisms about problematic behaviors, Prancer's viral listing did not sugarcoat his shortcomings, of which there are many. He hates men, he hates children, he hates dogs, he hates cats. He is nervous and fearful and poorly socialized. I've tried for the last several months to post this dog for adoption and make him sound palatable. The problem is he's just not. The ad read, there's not a very big market for neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dogs that look like gremlins. That is so, you're really setting him up for failure, by the way. That is a fucked up thing to do. Also, gremlins are cute.
It's a Boy Named Sue type of thing.
I guess so, yeah.
You're gonna make it's a boy dog?
Yes, I believe so, yeah. Yeah, the ad goes, I have to believe there's someone out there for Prancer because I'm tired and so is my family. Every day we live in the grips of the demonic Chihuahua hellscape he has created in our home. If you own a Chihuahua, you probably know what I'm talking about. He's literally the Chihuahua meme that describes them as being 50% hate and 50% terrible. If you're intrigued and horrified at how this animal sounds already, just wait, there's more. Prancer came to me obese, wearing a cashmere sweater with a bacon, egg, and cheese stuffed in his crate with him. I should have known in that moment this dog would be a problem. Why? He sounds happy. Why would you say that? He was owned by an elderly woman who treated him like a human and never socialized him. Sprinkle in a little genetic predisposition of being nervous, and you've concocted a neurotic mess, aka Prancer. His first week, he was too terrified to have a personality. What? This person sounds psychotic, by the way. As awful as it sounds, I kind of liked him better that way. He was quiet and just laid on the couch. Didn't bother anyone. I was excited to see him come out of a shell and become a real dog. I'm convinced at this point he is not a real dog, but more like a vessel for a traumatized Victorian child that now haunts our home.
So now we've got like a body transfer joke going on.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of Nancy Pelosi inside Pence, we've got a traumatized Victorian child inside a Chihuahua.
Yes. But he does have good traits. Ready? So what are his good traits? He is loyal beyond belief, although to tell you a secret, his complex is really just a facade for his fear. If someone tried to kill you, I can guarantee he would run away screeching. But as far as companionship, you will never be alone again. He likes to go for car rides. He is housebroken. He knows a few basic commands. He is quiet and non-destructive when left alone at home. And even though we call him baloney face, he is kind of cute to look at. He also smiles when he's excited. His ideal home would be with a single woman, a mother and daughter, or a lesbian couple. You can't live in an apartment or a condo unless you want him to ankle bite your neighbors. We already addressed the menu and children's situation. If you have people over, he would have to be put away like a vacuum. I know finding someone who wants a Chucky doll in dog's body is hard, but I have to try.
I guess it's an uplifting story about salesmanship, right? So
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You try to lie about the thing. Just go the other direction. Just tell the brutal
honesty. Yeah.
Brutal honesty, and that might actually work.
And apparently he was adopted by a lesbian. The tweet from NPR was, good news. Prancer, the 13-pound gremlin Chihuahua who hates men and children and was described as a vessel for a traumatized Victorian child, has been adopted by a 36-year-old single lesbian in Connecticut. That, I think, says it all.
That's an uplifting story. All right, so that was the 4 food groups this week. Good stuff.
Yeah, great stuff.
Should we talk about the Oscars?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I didn't watch it, did you?
No.
Apparently nobody else did either. Just over 8 million viewers. And it was 18 million last year, and it's been kind of steadily declining, so it's not just a pandemic thing.
This is, Matt and I are doing one of those things where we feel like we're more qualified to talk about it than people who actually watched it, because we're not biased. We can be objective.
Right, we're being objective about what we didn't watch.
Yeah.
So nobody watched the Oscars, or few people watched the Oscars. Yeah. And then one of the suggestions that people had about why the audience went down is because nobody's seen the movies that were up for consideration. So I don't think I saw any of the movies that were up for consideration this year. Did you?
Well, did I? Let's see. Did I?
Should we just do capsule reviews of the movies that we didn't see really quickly?
Sure, yeah.
What's Minari about? Okay, let's guess. It's either...
You can guess that one. Yeah, and then I'll guess the next one, yeah.
It's not an illustrated... It's not a Pixar movie about a delightful creature from another world, because that would be happy.
Oh, right.
It's depressing somehow.
Actually, not so much. You know what Minari means?
No.
Korean. Water celery.
It's a Korean word?
Yes.
So it's about it's a sad immigrant movie? A friend of mine and I, we once theorized that there were only like 5 movies. It's like good-looking vampires, dragons and shit, weightlifters and underpants, sad immigrants. I can't remember what the 5th one is, but this is a sad immigrant movie, right? But somehow through the mutual support and loving kinship of their difficult but at times but ultimately rewarding family relationships, they managed to get through and gain an appreciation of American culture.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but also, you know, the mom worries about their son David's heart condition. Who, you know, he's frequently told not to run due to that.
Right. Okay. I think that the fifth thing did have something to do with devastating medical conditions. Wait, I'm trying to remember. So there's a devastating medical condition in this?
Maybe devastating, yeah.
All right. What's Mank?
Okay, Mank is, here's the thing to me. Here's what's interesting about Mank to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Netflix movie. That much I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know it's also with Gary Oldman. It is Citizen Kane related.
Oh, so it's a Mankowitz thing.
Exactly. Now,
but the old Mankowitz, not the middle Mankowitz or the young Mankowitz. So Josh Mankowitz is the news reporter. Frank Mankowitz is his dad, who was George McGovern's campaign manager, and then this is the third Mankowitz who wrote Citizen Kane.
Oh, so all those Mankowitzes are real and related?
Yeah,
are they related?
So Frank Mankowitz's dad, I forget what his name was. He's the guy who wrote Citizen Kane.
Herman J Mankowitz.
That's a real name?
Yeah.
Herman J. Isn't that some kind of monster?
That's the Munster.
Munster,
Herman
is
Munster.
that? Okay, but there's no J. Okay.
I don't think so.
Herman J. Mankowitz. Okay.
So it's about Herman Mankowitz?
Exactly, yeah.
Does he have personal problems? Is that what this is?
Yeah, I mean,
overcomes personal problems to write devastating script. So it's like the James Whale movie a little bit, but like not as trippy.
The fifth type of movie is alcoholic writer.
Yes,
yeah.
right. Martin
I
Fink,
was gonna
right?
say, yeah. I mean, he's an alcoholic. He also has gout. That was the best part about it. That it tackled gout.
A writer overcomes drinking problem and gout to pen Citizen Kane.
Yeah. After which he sadly jumps out of a window and kills people.
Could make it interesting.
This is what we should do. You have to guess whether I'm telling the truth or not.
Okay, let's move on to Judas and the Black Messiah, which I have not seen.
Me neither. But I really want to see it. I've heard it's really good. And it's about Judas, who, as we all know, indirectly killed Christ.
Okay. I'm guessing it's not about the actual...
It's a look into Judas's life. It's the last hours of Christ's life.
I'm going to guess you're lying about this. I don't think it's set in the time of Christ. I'm going to guess.
Okay, not set in the time of Christ. Okay, is it about, I'll give you this much. Is it about Fred Hampton?
Oh, it's a Fred Hampton movie. Yeah. I heard about this. Yeah. I'm sorry, I cheated.
That's okay.
Okay, so Sound of Metal, I have to admit, I've seen. That's a debilitating medical condition movie, right?
Yeah, it's when you hear, is it tonight? It's about tinnitus, right?
I think it's about a guy who plays the drums too loud and he doesn't have insurance to pay for.
Oh, okay. It is kind of that, yeah.
Fixing his ears or getting cochlear implants or something like that. So it's like it's sad medical condition.
Movie, yeah. Even worse than gout.
The Father. What could that be about?
Mankowitz.
It's about Mankowitz?
A father, yeah.
I'm gonna guess that's not what it's about. Is it about an abusive dad?
Wilson, you want to give us some hints?
It used to be a play, and it's Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman basically just in a room.
Oh, it's one of those used to be a play.
Yeah, those can go either way.
So what do they do in that room?
Okay, good question. Play dominoes.
Slowly go insane? Die of a debilitating disease?
Who's closer?
Matt's closer.
What is it? What's the answer?
Father with dementia, I think.
Yes.
That was good. Now we finally found the way to play this game, I think, yeah.
I don't think I want to see, I don't think I enjoyed that movie.
I didn't enjoy it.
How many debilitating medical conditions do we have?
Oh yeah, well we don't really know. So do we count alcohol?
3. We're counting.
Okay, there's a heart condition in Minari.
Yeah, so that's 4.
I mean, and these are just the ones that we know of from not having seen it, yeah.
Okay, what's Nomadland about? Did we enjoy that?
Okay, so all right, Matt, Wilson, you have it. We're going to each put our theory out there, right? And you tell us who's...
give it to me.
All right. Nomadland. It's basically the story of 3 generations of nomads.
Like in medieval times or like...
Well, it actually is time travel. So the first generation is medieval. Then we move to the Renaissance and then all the way up to today.
So if this were the 80s,
yeah,
I would say Nomadland would be like a space movie or maybe like a medieval adventure, like swords and killing movie. given this is 2021, I'm going to guess that Nomadland describes a depressing place that is common in modern life. So is it either like the dating scene or Idlib in Syria, where it's like or like the sort of militarized extra-national place where where immigrants are dying, or not migrants are dying, or something like that?
Neither.
It's neither.
I'll give you a hint.
Though.
It's post Great Recession.
Homelessness. Is it homelessness?
Yeah.
I was going to guess homelessness before. I swear I was.
Francis McDormand loses everything and lives in a van and travels around.
I swear I was going to guess homelessness. I swear.
That's bad that I didn't get that. Okay.
There's like no plot, but it was awesome.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, but you saw it, or you useful idiot saw it?
I saw it. Is that allowed? Should I not have?
Yeah, you really are not qualified to.
Am I not allowed to watch movies?
We're going to have to cut this out. Yeah.
And it's so you're saying it's about people who lost everything after the crash, and stuff just sucks after that?
Doesn't necessarily suck. I kind of, after watching it, I want to go live in a van and go to these cool communities.
Oh, so you're living in a van?
Yeah.
So are you homeless if you're living in a van? I guess you're without
They say they're
home.
Houseless. But it's not depressing?
Not really.
Okay. Well, we loved it then.
we loved it. Yeah. It wasn't depressing. We thought it'd be depressing, but then actually wound up being really fun and funny.
Look at that lineup of movies, though. I mean, Jesus. What do you think? Let's just publicly bet right now. How many debilitating diseases will be in next year's list? So we had 4 here, right? That we know of?
Yeah, I think 3. I think it's going to go lower. Yeah.
I'll say it's a push. I'll say it's 4. All right. Well, that was a lot of stuff to get through. We have a great discussion. We're going to talk to Dr. Cornel West.
Well, Dr. Cornel West is a professor, philosopher, author, activist. He is a prominent and provocative Democratic intellectual. He's written 20 books and has edited 13. He's best known for his classics Race Matters and Democracy Matters, and for his memoir Brother West, Living and Loving Out Loud. His most recent book, Alack, Prophetic Fire, offers an unflinching look at 19th and 20th century African American leaders and their visionary legacies.
Last time around, when we interviewed him, we guessed all the people whose names he would mention during the interview. So we're going to try to do that again. I think we got a couple last time.
Yeah, we definitely did. Yeah.
All right. So we're each gonna name 4.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Sure. John Coltrane.
I was going to do that. Okay, go ahead.
Prince.
Great one.
But what if I cheat? I'm like, so tell us about Prince. Does
no,
that count?
we can't do that.
Okay.
That doesn't count.
All right, fine. John Coltrane, Prince, Bernie.
You're going to ask him a Bernie question. You're
you're right. That
constitutionally incapable of not asking him a Bernie question.
I'm going to say he'll mention Bernie before I mention him. And Biden. Not that exciting. I mean, those were kind of basic ones, but it's been a while.
I'm going to go with Miles Davis, Frederick Douglass, Cicero. Got to throw a German philosopher in there.
That's good.
Martin Heidegger.
Sure. I'm going to throw in Fannie Lou Hamer also.
Oh, right. There's always a Fannie Lou Hamer in there. And we don't say this in a mean way. We say this in a affectionate way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're both going to guess Fannie Lou Hamer. Maybe not Heidegger.
Well, how about Bertolt Brecht? Not a philosopher, but a good German.
Brecht? Okay.
This will be really cut to us being like, so of all the German playwrights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For Dr. Evil. Well, this will be great. Let's talk to Dr. Cornel West.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being the brave person, tireless person that you are. Wanted to start off by talking about what's happening in your life in terms of your career, and you are on the move. You have stepped away from Harvard, Mazel Tov, and you were going back to Union Theological Seminary. So can you tell people why that's happening?
Well, I've been blessed to be at a number of different places. I would never say that my situation, plight, or predicament is in any way equivalent to others. You got so many folk catching hell, both within the academy as well as on the ground all around the world. But even as one who's been highly blessed, you can still be disrespected, still be devalued, still be dismissed. And once again, same thing 20 years ago, 2 decades later, similar situation in some ways, headed back to New York City this time. It's a ridiculous situation in terms of a committee recommending a tenure process. And I was tenured at Yale 37 years ago, university professor at Harvard, which is only 21 out of 1,500. And then university professor at Princeton, 17 out of 1,300. And then the idea of just wondering whether you're worthy of tenure is such a sick joke that it's not even worth talking about at a certain level, you know what I mean? But it reflects, a lot of the spiritual and intellectual bankruptcy of the Harvards and other places that are so tied into now big money, so tied into reputation, so tied into the circulation of a certain sense of spectacle rather than serious substance and serious focus on teachers and teaching, and focus especially on students. And so it is what it is. You just got to keep moving.
Yeah. Much better city. You're going to be in a much better city.
Well, that's true too. Well, New York City, you got jazz clubs and a lot of other places. And Union Seminary has always been my institutional home. There's no doubt about it.
You had some tough words for them. I saw an interview where you said, Harvard has actually done very well in terms of bringing in different people of different colors and gender at a high level into the administration, but it does not yet translate on the ground in terms of faculty. I get was it a dispute about something that you had said politically? I mean, what's the nature of what was going on there?
It's a good question because I never received an answer. I'd asked the Harvard administration, why would you say that my tenure process would be so fraught and would be so controversial? I just want to know. Is it they think if I'm too old, then, that's plausible. But then I'm giving the Gifford Lecture, which is you all know, it's almost like a Nobel Prize equivalent in philosophy with John Dewey, William James, Alfred North Whitehead, Reinhold Niebuhr, Martha Nussbaum. These are towering philosophical figures. I'll be delivering those lectures in Scotland. So they still think I have something to say as an older brother. You know what I mean? You all still think I got
You're
something to say. I'm still on the show.
Yeah.
I said, So I figured it could be age. It could be age at all. It couldn't be academics because of, if I got tenure with 2 books at Yale in 1984, you would think with 22 books later on, that wouldn't be controversial. So it had to be politics. I don't think it was my love and support of Brother Bernie either, though. The only issue that would make any sense to me is the issue that has been at the center of earlier professors who were denied promotion, which is the Palestinian cause. We've had 3 professors who have been denied tenure positions based on that particular issue. And my hunch is, as faculty advisor to the Palestinian students and as associated with the Jewish Current, which is, of course, one of the grand progressive institutions within the Jewish community that's highly critical of the Israeli occupation and so forth. But that's the hypothesis that makes the most sense to me. Now, I was viciously attacked by my dear brother, Jonah Steinberg, the rabbi there at Hillel and so forth. And so I got a chance to steal away with him. And we had a wonderful dinner, 2-hour dinner, when he was saying I'm scared to talk, because he sent me an email that I'd never received. And so when I read it in the Crimson, I just called him up right away. We had a wonderful dinner. And we agreed to disagree in this regard. But I do think that it's an issue that we have to hit head on. And I'm convinced that there's people in high places at Harvard and other establishmentarian sites that don't want to have a robust, uninhibited, honest, candid conversation about the suffering of Palestinians under occupation and the history of the very state of Israel itself in terms of ways in which not just its great democratic elements, and it does have democratic elements, I'd be the first to note, just like the United States has some, but there's also some barbaric elements in terms of ethnic cleansing and in terms of apartheid-like conditions at the present on the West Bank. And you have to be honest about that. And it seems to me we've got a long way to go to have a serious conversation about that issue. And of course, wherever I go, I'm not going to stop talking about any form of oppression or domination. It could be Tibet, it could be Sub-Sahara, it could be Morocco's occupation, it could be India's occupation, it could be a whole host of other occupations. All of them are wrong. All of them are evil. All of them I consider crimes against humanity.
Yeah, and you had a very strong, not surprisingly, letter of support from graduate students. 100 signed on the letter condemning Harvard for not enthusiastically extending you tenure. Yeah.
No, that's true. The support has been magnificent, and it's been across the board. It's black, white, Arab, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, agnostics, Marxists, non-Marxists, latitudinarians. I mean, across the board, it's been a beautiful thing to witness. But the crucial thing is to view my particular case as a case on a continuum with other forms of not just degradation, not just devaluation, but of domination in much thicker forms than myself.
Have you heard from other professors who've had difficulties over that issue? I mean, obviously, it's certainly not. There have been other professors just at Harvard, as you mentioned, but.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I in the past have supported a number of brothers and sisters who not only were in my situation, but in much worse situations. They were actually fired. They were actually pushed out. Their reputations were smeared by a number of people in a very wrong and ugly manner. So that it's a tough one. I mean, the sad thing is there's a lot of professors at Harvard and other places who agree with me privately, but won't say a mumbling word publicly.
Right.
Their silence itself becomes a form of complicity. And this includes, friends and folk who don't know me that well. But it is what it is. I mean, we human beings, most of us are not known for our courage. It's just not in high supply. That's true in the academy. I'm sure you all see it in journalism. We know it's true in churches and mosques and synagogues and temples and so forth. And so if you really try to be forthright, you're not going to have a lot of people standing there with you. That's just, that's just par for the course. You just keep moving.
Well, certainly outspokenness is something you've never had a problem with, which is one of your most admirable qualities, for sure.
That's what's so wonderful about both of you all. You all the truth tellers, I'm telling you.
And does it make you sad? I know that you politically, you have a sense of what happened, right? And you are placing it potentially in this context of Israel criticism, which really, unfortunately, gets dismissed as anti-Semitism, which is totally unfair and totally, especially during this time of all times, always unfair. But now when really it is rearing its head again, you have actual anti-Semitism, actual, neo-fascism. To throw these accusations around lightly is just like an incredibly dangerous thing to do. But do you also take it personally? How do you manage that? The kind of the broader political view and also just, I've been not granted tenure by an institution.
I mean, one is that I'll never allow anything to get in the way of my speaking and bearing witness for any peoples who are victimized. So, for example, when you actually do have these ugly anti-Jewish forms of hatred and prejudice and attack and even murder, then you have to be right there on the front line. You got to be right there in the vanguard. And it has nothing to do with what other people think, but that's what's right. That's what's moral. You see, so they messing with the brothers and sisters in Pittsburgh. You got to hit it head on. Messing with you got to hit it in France. You got to hit it head on, and so forth. But when at the same time, they put the charges against you because you are promoting the same principles as it relates to Palestinians, you say, wait a minute, I'm just trying to be consistent. How come you are not as consistent as you ought to be? And that's where the challenge is made, and it's it's one that anybody. I mean, you got towering figures, Noam Chomsky, Stanley Aronowitz. We can go on and on and on. Who's been wrestling with this for a long time within the Jewish community? Yeah. Even Brother Bernie was viciously attacked for that. And I put pressure on Bernie because I thought he should have been even stronger in his critique of Israeli occupation and so forth. But he certainly has been a very important progressive voice in trying to make Israel more fair and just as it relates to Palestinian brothers and sisters.
You were obviously very close to Bernie Sanders, and he modeled a lot of his policies after FDR. He openly did so, and now obviously he lost the primary. Biden wins, and all we see in the news are these stories about how Biden is now the incarnation of FDR. As someone who was so close to Bernie, what's been your reaction to that?
Well, in 2016, it was clear that the movement around our dear brother Bernie won the ideological war, because everybody had to talk about what the young brothers and sisters were talking about in Occupy. They had to talk about wealth inequality, the kind of things you all have talked about all of these years, you see. They had to talk about healthcare for all and so forth. Jump to 2020, similarly so. See, I'd always viewed Biden as a milquetoast neoliberal centrist who always checked to see which way the wind was blowing. He still got blood on his hands in terms of the 4 crimes against humanity: mass incarceration, invasion, and occupation of Iraq, the unleashing of Wall Street greed with the repeal of Glass-Steagall, and then the Israeli occupation that he's always been complicitous with. I consider those 4 crimes against humanity. Biden is associated with each one of them, and for the most part has never apologized. So now all of a sudden, like LBJ, you say, ooh, Biden, relief bill, Biden, infrastructure bill, Biden talking about white supremacy, terrorism, Biden talking about Jim Crow, Biden. Interesting. Is it just his speech writers, or is he actually undergoing an LBJ-like change and transformation? And I hope that it's the latter. I think that there's a good chance that it's the latter. I still remind him of how he used to be, because people can change. People do change, like LBJ himself. But still, when it comes to Haiti, he still he gets a D minus, if not an F. When it comes to Latin America as a whole, when it comes to reigniting a Cold War with China and the Russians.
Oh my gosh, that was.
It's a D. Gets a D.
F with China.
Oh, you get me? Oh yeah,
China, yeah.
D minus or F. I try to be a slightly more charitable grader, but I understand.
No curve.
About this, so he's falling on his face, so that he's still very much, head of an empire that's trying to deal with its own deep decay and decline. Very much so. But domestically, LBJ was a D minus or F on Vietnam. There's no doubt about that. Similarly so in Dominican Republic in '65, and so many other instances when it came to U.S. foreign policy. So when you're looking at an empire, you've got both the imperialism outside of its borders, and then you've got the domestic issues inside. And it's the domestic issues, I think, that Biden is moving in a decent direction. We'll see how far he really goes.
Last question. You mentioned your mother, and so wanted to offer my condolences, but also ask you to if you could share share some of her lessons and legacy, and anything you want to make sure that people know about her.
Yeah, I appreciate that, though. Yeah, she was really mom. But see, I'm just a little small footnote to mom, though, because she was a walking exemplar of courage, of grace, of dignity, and most importantly, of love, that she believed fundamentally as a Christian woman, as a Black woman coming out of Jim Crow, Louisiana, and ended up in Sacramento, that to be human at its deepest level was to empty oneself and to use whatever gifts one had to try to empower, enable, and allow others to be the best that they could be. And that's a very, very beautiful way of being in the world. It really is. It's what, music at its deepest level is all about. Beethoven is kenosis, the notes. James Brown is kenosis on the stage. He gives everything. Rembrandt is kenosis on the canvas. He's giving everything inside of him. Bruce Springsteen, the blues man on the white side of town, he gives everything with E Street Band. Janis Joplin just give everything. We can go through Al Green and the Dramatics and the Temptations and Michael Jackson and Prince himself, who I knew so well. He could hardly walk after these performances. We carry him on my back. Say, Prince, you're pushing yourself. I said, but Coltrane about to break vessels in his neck, drops his horn and pounds on his chest. That's Irene B. West. She gave everything, starting with Clifton, Cornel, Cynthia, Cheryl, Dad, and then her church, Shiloh Baptist Church, then her community. You know, there's an elementary school named after her now, Irene B. West Elementary School. Beautiful picture. Be strong and courageous. Give everything. That kenosis cuts all the way down. And for her, it comes right out of Hebrew scripture and a Palestinian Jew named Jesus who ran the money changers out of the temple and ended up on a cross. And that Roman Empire thought that they had silenced that kind of love, but it just kept coming, oozing out anyway. And it oozed out so thickly that the Roman Empire had to try to incorporate that religion as its own religion, which it did. So most institutional Christianity has very little to do with that Jesus of Nazareth, because he's too real, too strong, too much love, too much critique, too much courage, you see. But that's Irene B. West. She was tied to that Jesus. And you know, we're gonna put her to rest in just a few days. Yeah, but thank you so much for giving me a chance to say something about Mom, though. Nobody like her.
Did she teach you your politics, your ideas? Did you have a lot of political differences, similarities?
I think she's a Martin Luther King kind of sister. She took us to see Martin when I was 10 years old, so it was very formative in that way. If she had a critique of me, which is really quite understandable, because I had much more gangster in me than she did. See, I'm much more street and gangster than she ever was. But she would say, you know, honey, sometimes your tone can be so harsh. She said, so I'm praying for you. I want you to say what you think the Lord wants you to say. So I don't want to shut you up. But I think sometimes your tone could be harsh. And I said, well, Mom, I said, I think my tone needs to be harsher sometimes. I think I'm just too soft certain times in terms of saying fundamentally what needs to be said in a critical way. So we had wonderful dialogues in that regard. But I'm just so much, you know, I'm Mama's boy in that sense of being shaped by her sense of kenosis, shaped by her sense of love and self-empty. There's no doubt about it. The night before she had this massive heart attack, we had a wonderful, wonderful talk, and she would always say, I don't want you to be talking about being successful. I want you to be great in the eyes of our Savior, Jesus Christ. And he would always say, he or she is greatest among you will be the servant, the love warrior, the freedom fighter. I said, Mama, I'm trying to be true now. I'm trying to be true. Indeed, indeed. Maybe not every day of the week, but at least 3-4 days of the week, I'm being true. I'm trying to hold off with my gangster proclivities. But I know you're praying for me anyway. She said, yes, honey, that's exactly right. I love you no matter what. So in that sense, she definitely was proud. Definitely. But her afterlife will go on in various ways, including it being at work in my own life, even as I continue to fall short.
Thank you so much.
Well, Dr. West, thanks so much for taking the time. You're an inspiration to both of us. And I know it's a difficult time for you, and I really appreciate your taking a few minutes to talk to us.
I salute both of you, because you all got that light inside of you that shines. It's a beautiful thing.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Wow.
Well, thank you.
Look at you. You look lit up right now. So must be contagious.
That's beautiful.
All right. Well, thanks, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Indeed, indeed.
That happened, and we interviewed Cornel West, who was great.
Great. Amazing. Yeah.
It's actually really nice of him to take time. I mean,
yeah,
he's always very generous with us. And
yeah, incredibly.
So and he's fascinating. So
Yeah, really fascinating. Yeah.
all right, so thanks for checking in, and don't do any of the bad things that we always tell you not to do.
Yeah.
None of those reading, watching, listening habits that we always try to tell you to avoid.
Yeah.
And then check in with us again next week.
Check in with us, and we got some great Substack only content that you're gonna get from this episode. To see the rest of that interview, make sure you go to usefulidiots.substack.com. We'll also be dropping a bonus interview we did with someone else.